You're listening to Banter with the Boys, talking all things sports. From betting and brawls, Super Bowl to Stanley Cup Finals. Get laced up. It's time for Banter with the Boys.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to our first episode of Banter with the Boys. Today we are going to be talking about the Super Bowl, but first let's get everybody in here. Mr. Kyle, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm flying high, man. I can't wait to get this thing going. It's been a long journey to get this rolling, but I'm very excited. What a great way to kick it off, Super Bowl. So couldn't be more thrilled. Mikey?
Yeah, also glad to be on. Quite the honor. Some fame to come out of this, without a doubt. But yeah, it's been a great day. Made a little road trip out to good old Diamond Joe's. Took me about an hour 30 there and probably about an hour and 40 back. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. More to come. But how about you, Derek? How are you feeling overall today?
I'm doing great here. I'm happy to be a part of the inaugural podcast here. Thank you so much, guys, for having me be a part of it. Very honored. How about you, Mr. Nick?
Oh, just over here enjoying the beautiful faces around me and, ready to talk some sports. But what I really, really want to know is, how you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing good, brother. I could not be more happy to be here, setting the stage for this podcast. We're going to get going here. Now, I do want to do a special shout-out to the man behind the scenes, Mr. Kevin. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't without this gentleman, and he is doing all of the behind-the-scene works. So I just want to give you a round of applause here, Kev.
Hey, man, Kev.
All right, fellas, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. We have the granddaddy of them all, Super Bowl 57, taking place this Sunday, February 12th at 5:30 Central Time in the state of Arizona at the State Farm Stadium. We have the Chiefs taking on the Eagles. We have the Chiefs making their fifth Super Bowl appearance with 2 prior wins, and the Eagles coming into their 4th Super Bowl appearance with 1 win. Both of the teams coming in with a record of 16-3 and were the number 1 seed on the season. And surprisingly enough, they've actually both scored the exact same amount of points this year. So that's just a little tidbit going into this one. Pretty cool. You don't see that very often. But let's start talking about the game. First, we're going to get into the quarterback play. We have 2 very high-profile quarterbacks going at it this Sunday. So we're going to start with the Chiefs and Patty Mahomes. Why don't you kick us off, Kyle?
I got Patty Mahomes at 278 yards with 2 touchdowns and 24 yards rushing, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got 300 plus. I think he'll be throwing quite a bit. I kind of just went bold here on just he still a decent production day. 278 yards, 2 touchdowns. I just think the Eagles D is going to be very, very tough on him, and he'll have to make some dynamic throws, use his arm talent, which he obviously can do. He is a generational talent, but I still have him at a solid outing. Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat with you, Kyle. I think I'm a little bit conservative when we're talking about Patrick Mahomes. We know he can light up the scoreboard. He can throw for 400 plus yards. But in the Super Bowl, I've got him at 262 yards for this one with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. So the Eagles' defense is pretty tough to pass on. They are the number 1 defense in the league when it comes to passing. They've blown out the league when it comes to recording sacks, so the pass rush is going to be tough to overcome. They know how to get their picks. They got a great secondary. But we all know how the Chiefs can get when they get into that red zone. Whenever Travis Kelce is open, that's when that team becomes a problem. So definitely look for Mahomes to get a couple of touchdowns and look for him to have a pretty good rapport with Travis Kelce, especially with their receiving core being so banged up lately. What do you think, Nick?
Well, I'm kind of on the same page as you guys, but I'm a little bit more on I think he's going to have a pretty bad game overall. 225 yards in passing yards is my prediction. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 8 rushing yards. So, I don't really have too much faith in Patrick Mahomes being able to face that defense. He is God. He is able to take a shot in any different way and angle, but I just don't see him being able to outdo that Eagles secondary overall. So I think the difference maker is the 2 interceptions by Patrick Mahomes. But, kind of more wondering if anybody else has a little bit of a different mindset on this regard. Mr. Tyler.
Yeah, Nick, I couldn't disagree more. I don't know when Pat Mahomes has never stepped up to the occasion, especially when you have the granddaddy of them all. This is the biggest stage he's been on. Obviously, he's been to 2 prior Super Bowls, winning one of them. But I think Mahomes is going to be Mahomes. I have him going for 310 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. I do have him throwing an interception. He does like to try to fit the ball in tight spaces, which can lead him to some trouble. Now, granted, he does have the arm talent to complete those passes and make those throws that not a lot of people can. But I also think with the lack of his mobility with that ankle still kind of bothering him, he's not going to be able to extend the play quite as much there. So he's going to have to throw the ball into those tight spaces even yarder. And then touching on that ankle injury as well. I only have him at 15 yards rushing. I don't think he's going to offer much there unless he does get those 1 or 2 scrambles that he gets outside the pocket and just gets down pretty quick. With the emergence of MVS in the last couple of weeks, they've given him that deep threat that they have kind of missed the whole year ever since Tyreek left. He's kind of taken that role, obviously to a lot smaller degree. He's nowhere near Tyreek's level, but with the focus on Travis Kelce being that focal point of the offense, I think MVS is going to eat on the outside, so I still think Mahomes is going for over 300. Now let's kick it over to the other teammate we have here with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, the young emerging quarterback. Where do you have him going for, Derek?
I've got him going a little bit more aggressive than Patrick Mahomes on this one. I think this Super Bowl is going to feature the Jalen Hurts show. It's been his offense all year long, and I don't see why it would change in the Super Bowl here. I've got him going for almost 300 yards passing, accumulating about 4 total touchdowns. I think he can certainly get some passing touchdowns to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, elite pair of receivers right there. And, of course, when they get into the red zone, he's always going to be a threat to run. Despite his shoulder injury. So because of that shoulder injury and because the Chiefs are pretty respectable in the running game, I do think Hurts does get a little bit limited on the rushing yards. So I've got him at about 50 yards rushing. If you look at his past couple games since his shoulder injury, he has been limited in terms of yardage compared to earlier in the season, but he certainly is still a threat, and he can scramble pretty well. And the Chiefs do struggle against the pass, so that's why I do believe that Hurts will throw for almost 300 yards. I certainly think he can, he's got that capability. He's shown that his shoulder hasn't bothered him, so he's certainly capable of making those deep throws. What do you think, Nick?
I'm a pretty firm believer in the Hurts show. After what he did in college, battling back from the multiple injuries, I think this is his year. I don't think he's going to be going off as much as a lot of people are thinking. I think he's only going to get about 230 yards passing itself, but I do see him getting a total of 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, one running for sure, about 65 yards rushing. But I think the difference maker that really shows the Hurts show is the 0 interceptions I predict. I think that's going to be the difference between the 2 games. I think this is going to be a battle of defense. We do have 2 of some of the most generational talents in Hurts and Mahomes. But, man, it's going to be tough on that side. So, that's my predictions. With that, what do we got on that side, Mr. Tyler?
Well, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that Hurts is a generational talent yet. I think it's still too early in his career to kind of establish that. Now, Mahomes definitely is. Hurts has the potential to be that. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's going to have as good of a games as you guys are expecting in the passing game, with I only have him throwing for 215 yards and getting 2 touchdowns, but also throwing 1 interception, where I think he's going to make a lot of his plays are on the outside. With 75 yards rushing and another touchdown. The big thing with that is it's going to depend on how Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap protect the edge for that Chiefs defense and see if they can get him in the containment. As you mentioned, Derek, he hasn't really had much of a focal point in the running game since that shoulder injury. They haven't necessarily been designing as much runs for him, but he still has that one play ability to get outside and pull off a 40-50 yarder at any point in time. I think that's going to be a deciding factor for the Eagles offense is how much he has ability to get outside and run. The one thing with the Eagles this year is they haven't really played from behind a whole lot, so his passing numbers are a lot easier when he can only focus on, they have that run game element, which the Eagles are the best running team in the league, hands down. But I think if the Chiefs get ahead, I don't know if Hurts has that ability in the big game to, take that step up. Just because he's not proven to do so, he hasn't had to yet. So I'm going to take the experience of the Chiefs defense in that regard. I know I'm probably one of the few that hasn't performing as little as he does here.
So, Tyler, you question Jalen Hurts' ability to become generational talent. What if he wins the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl MVP? Is he generational talent? Because keep in mind, Jalen Hurts is in his second full year. So that's quite a lot to do in a short time, and that's pretty impressive. So what do you think about that if that were the scenario here?
I would agree that it takes him a step further. I want to see what he has more to offer with a less good of a team around him before I go to the generational talent aspect of it. If you look at the Chiefs when Mahomes came in, they were a really, really good team, and he kind of took them to that next level as a perennial playoff caliber team, and then taking them to the Super Bowl. They didn't really have a top tier defense at that time. Now they turned it around in the second half of the year and became that. They were extremely good towards the end of that year, and he's had a lot of weapons around him, and one of the best play callers of all time in Andy Reid. Like, that goes very under. He doesn't get as much praise as he should as a head coach with how successful he has been. But I think, I would definitely have to reevaluate depending on how we would play in this game. In terms of the MVP, that's essentially a quarterback's award. So, it's going to be whatever quarterback wins is most likely going to get that. Now, Cooper Kupp, the exception last year, but that was also, Cooper Kupp going for just an insane game. So I don't think a player on either team's offense will kind of take them to that level where a quarterback's not going to win the award. But I'll definitely have to rethink it, But I just need to see more than, 2 full years before I can kind of pin him on that.
Well, I see where you're coming from with that in general. But the reason why I say generational talent, he does have a little bit of that Lamar type of rushing ability, but yet still has the arm, to me, kind of like Mahomes, where he's able to throw it in some spots that most other quarterbacks aren't able to do. So I see him turning into that next level quarterback just because he's just as versatile as Mahomes, but he's also been in the big stage just as much as Mahomes, and I throughout his college career.
I think that's respectable because that's a lot of pressure on you, especially in that time in the SEC championship game when he came up clutch after Tua got hurt in that SEC championship game. The guy steps up in big moments for sure.
He also got benched for Tua in the national championship game that same year, though. Yeah. So how much was he going to get benched if he's having that good of a game? And then he goes to Oklahoma, and the Sooners were good, but they didn't take that next top tier step. And to say I'm not discrediting that by any means, don't get me wrong, but to say he's been in that spotlight as much as Mahomes, who's been to 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. Granted, didn't have the collegiate career, not even close. But I'm taking that Super Bowl pressure over college football national championship pressure any day. All right, boys, enough about these quarterbacks. I think we've covered pretty much everything on them. Now let's go to how this game's actually going to be decided, and we're going to pick our X factors. We're going to break it down with an offensive player and a defensive player from each team. But first, let's get over to our degenerate, Moneyline Mikey. Start us off, bud.
Thank you for the warm intro there, Tyler. This is Moneyline Mike. I want to call him degeneracy per se, more of a habit or hobby is probably the best way to put it, right? A professional hobby. Yes, I don't win money yet, but we're gonna get into it later. I think this is finally my time. But yeah, I like to bet on the sports. Costs me an hour and a half of my time every time I drive out to Iowa, and with gas prices, that's a little rough, but it's okay. But the horse season's around the corner. Luckily, that's more local and shouldn't be so bad. But let's get into the X factors here. And enough about me being a degenerate here. Obviously, we just talked a whole lot about quarterbacks. I didn't obviously have much to say, but because, who cares about my opinion here? Because I'm just the local gambler here. But all joking aside, actually, there's a reason why, right? They actually gave me a little crap for this in the pre-production, especially Tyler. If you haven't noticed yet, Tyler's my nemesis here. For my X Factor, I picked Patrick Mahomes. Usually an X Factor, as we've recently discussed, is, your unique player, someone unpredictable, someone out of the ordinary. But honestly, no, it isn't. Not in this go-around. It's Mahomes. Mahomes for many different reasons, mainly just because of this ankle injury. Right, this ankle injury, people are making way light of it because it's Mahomes, right? Mahomes is Superman. No, he's human here. Let's not forget that. Most people in this injury don't finish the game, first off, and win. And second off, most people, they miss weeks. If you look at Tony Romo, identical ankle injury, missed 6 weeks, and he is literally, this is like one of his main things in his career is known for is dependency and reliability, right? He doesn't miss games. And here is Mahomes 2 weeks later. He's listed as questionable, but all systems are listed as go. That's just how he's listed, but he's still going to be playing. And that's obviously going to determine the game, right? This is the Super Bowl. He's going against one of the number one, top defenses of all time. Some people are comparing them to the 1985 Bears. Obviously, that's a little bit of a stretch, but seriously, with their defensive line and their secondary that they have, he's got to cut it against them. And with that leg, right, the biggest thing is he's always been known for his scramble. He's been known to be able to go out of pocket and create plays out of nothing with Travis Kelce and his receiving core, and scramble or get that first down, right? And that's not going to be there. I doubt it. And not in 2 weeks. Now when most QBs either miss 6 to 9 weeks or have to get surgery or have to get major rehab after the injury that he had here. So he is my X factor. The last thing I would just finish with him is really it's his legacy at stake. He's won 1 out of 2 Super Bowls, 50%. Cool, right? This is the beginning of his legacy. What is his story going to be, right? We get paid on results. We get judged on results. It's the same thing in my job. It's the same thing in most people's lives, right? What you deliver is how you get judged. It doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. It doesn't matter, what the stats are. It's about, what Ricky Bobby says. If you're not first, you're last. Just kidding, but right? He's trying to create a legacy, though. I just think a lot with his contract. And then the biggest thing, and I'll leave it with, is it's that big moment doubt, right? If he wins this game, he starts that legacy. If he loses this game, the professionals, the pros, all the analysts in the league are going to start questioning him in big moments, right? In the biggest moments that count. But that's what I got to say. Let me pass it back to my nemesis here. Hopefully he doesn't call me any more mean words tonight. But let's pass it back to this Wisconsinite. He smells like cheese. His name is Tyler.
Well, I don't know. We were going down that road here the first podcast, Danny, but I love you, bud. That was quite the take. It's interesting to put the star quarterback as the X factor, but hey, that's all right. For me, with the Chiefs offense, I'm going to go with their offensive line. This Eagles front seven is just vaunted this year. They have 68 sacks, which is third of all time to those 84 Bears. Which had 72, so that they were 4 sacks short of it. It was insane what their front seven, really their front four was able to do. They had 10 players with 10 sacks each, which had never happened before. And what did they do? They went out and got Ndamukong Suh and Robert Quinn. So what can this Chiefs offensive line do? It's not a focal point or strong point of this team. That Eagles front seven and front four especially just scares the crap out of anybody that's in front of them. So how well are they going to be able to protect Patty Mahomes? But more importantly, how well are they going to be able to get the run game going so they can have some resemblance of a balance on offense so they don't just have to rely on Mahomes, because those edges are coming fierce. If they can pin back on third and 7 or longer and just get after the quarterback, I don't know if those Chiefs offensive threats outside can beat this Eagles secondary. So I really think this game's going to come down to the Chiefs' offensive line, at least from the scoring sake, on the Chiefs themselves. That's really all I have for the Chiefs' offensive factors, though. What do you think, Nick? Who's your factor?
Well, because of every single point that you just put off, I have the beast, the man known as Kelsey. I think the only way the Chiefs are going to be successful is if Kelsey decides to find the monster inside that man, and he plays extremely physical while getting off the line and getting some hard-earned yards. I mean, there's no other way you're getting through this Eagles defense, in my opinion. That man is going to have to break out, and he's going to have to break out with an attitude. So my X factor is definitely Kelsey. It's pretty obvious, but man, this is going to have to be his biggest game at the biggest time, at the biggest stage. So we'll see if that happens. I have enough confidence in that man, but that's my prediction. Mr. Kyle, I've been wondering what's on that tinker of yours.
Yeah, I think Kelsey is going to be really productive against the Eagles in this game. But someone else has got to step up, and I think it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I believe last game he had close to 10 targets, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. He's definitely the deep threat guy now with Tyreek out of the equation. But he's got to step up this game if the Eagles really, or if the Chiefs really want to win this one. Derek, what do you think here?
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of you guys like the receivers or for Travis Kelce, but my X factor in this one is going to have to be the Chiefs running game. So whether that's going to be Pacheco, McKinnon, or even Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So now there's a name you probably have not heard of in several weeks. That guy was kind of an afterthought. He probably still won't be much of a factor in my opinion. He's probably going to be the third string behind Pacheco, McKinnon. But I think those guys are definitely going to have to step up. As I've said before, the Eagles' pass defense is the best in the league. They've recorded a ton of sacks. They'll definitely pressure Mahomes. They have a really, really good secondary. And, the Chiefs are banged up at receiver, so it's going to be tough to pass. So I think those guys are going to have to really step up. The Chiefs, they like to abandon the running game, but I think they're going to have to against the Eagles defense because that is actually probably their weak point as a defense is against the running game. They gave up still a pretty good number of yards to San Francisco, who didn't even have a quarterback. So I think that speaks volumes right there. So I think the Chiefs really should run if they want to have a good chance in this game. So those were some diverse takes, I think, on the Chiefs. Why don't we go on over to the Eagles? So I think, Nick, you've got a pretty big take here on your X factor.
I got a big one in my opinion. So we all know who A.J. Brown is. We know what that man does to defenses, and we know what Jalen Hurts does on that ground. So if I'm the Chiefs, I'm doubling up A.J. Brown all day long, and I'm stacking that box, and I'm trying to make sure that we contain Mr. Jalen Hurts. So what does that open up? To me, where does the biggest game come from? I think it's going to be Devontae Smith. I think he takes advantage of that weak defense secondary with the Chiefs, and I think he goes for 2 big, deep touchdowns. My X factor is Devontae Smith. And I can already tell that I got another fellow podcaster here who has a similar mindset over there. What you got over there, Mr. Kyle?
Yeah, you took my guy, Devontae Smith.
Oof.
Last few games, actually I should say the last 10 games, he's had the same target share with A.J. Brown, 8 targets a game, over 80 yards. I think the Chiefs are going to try to double up A.J. Brown in a way, but it's almost kind of a pick your poison with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. The Eagles are really, really good offensively, and the Chiefs do have a pretty weak secondary. So I do think Brown gets a deep ball. I think he goes 100 yards, actually 112 yards with a touchdown. That's my prediction. I'm going bold here. But yeah, he's gonna have a good game.
I will say great minds do think like Mr. Kyle. So with that in the place here, I feel like we might have somebody else who might have a different mindset. I can already just see you staring at me, Mr. Wright, over there. So Tyler, let's hear what you got.
Yeah, I'm going to go with somebody else on the Eagles offense here. Actually, Derek and I agree on this one. So we agree that A.J. Brown is going to be the focal point of that offensive passing game for the Eagles. But I also think that Devontae Smith is going to be the second best option there, so they're going to do their best to shut him down. So I chose Dallas Goedert. He's going to be able to eat on the inside there. If you shut down those two offensive threats, the Chiefs passing game is not very good. So that will mean that the Eagles are going to have to get a little bit more creative if they're taking away those top two threats outside, and that gives Goddard an ability to eat underneath. So I think he's going to have a big game here for that Eagles offense to truly come to their full form. But what do you think, Derek? I know you agree with me on this one.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think that this is going to be a very interesting Super Bowl in the fact that I think this is going to be a tight end show. Those who have participated in fantasy football this year, you've seen that tight ends were kind of an afterthought this year. They were kind of just non-existent. I owned Mark Andrews this year, and that guy kind of fell off towards the end of the year, which is super unfortunate. But he still finished, second, third in the league in fantasy scoring. So, I think that this is going to be an interesting game, and I think, tight ends will definitely show up in this one. The Chiefs are going to be getting back L'Jarius Sneed, who is their top corner. So I think, he's going to be helping shut down A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. And, of course, like I've said before, the Chiefs are pretty porous on pass defense. So I definitely think Goddard will be the guy they may not account for. And he can be pretty sneaky, just like Travis Kelce can be. So we've kind of got the room split down the middle here. So, Mikey, what are you going to go with?
So I got a different X factor for the Eagles. Now, in the name of splitting the tie, in the name of my financial wallet, of driving to Diamond Joe's, I would pick Dallas Goedert. Now, as far as who I actually picked, I did pick Miles Sanders. Let's not forget, this is the Super Bowl. I know it's a pretty generic statement, but it's a grind. It's going to be about who controls the ball, who has the possessions the most, who owns that clock. And with Miles Sanders, they got to establish a run game early. They have to control that momentum, to open up the play action option, to open up Hurts and his ability to scramble. And it's just going to be a long game. Like, don't forget, halftime twice as long. It's just going to drag out, right? And if they can just establish that run game and wear that defense down, it's going to create a lot for them in the fourth quarter, in the third quarter. That's who I have for my X Factor. Let's pass it on over back to Tyler here to break us back into the defensive side of the ball here.
All right, thank you, Stan. We're going to start with the Chiefs side of the ball here. I'm going to go the inside backers for the Chiefs. We got Nick Bolton and Willie Gay Jr. They're going to need to close those rushing lanes and force the Eagles to beat them in the passing game. They're not going to, if they're not keeping their commit and filling those holes, they're not going to be able to be productive as a defense with the Eagles running all over them, because that in turn will open up that play action game, open up the passing lanes. So they're going to have to stay committed to stopping the run and not overcommitting to any rushing lane, because that Eagles offensive line is just insane with their running schemes and just big maulers. They are just wild how good they truly are. They're going to have a big game in the middle and be able to also kind of keep containment on Jalen if they do, or if they are in a spy situation. Keep containment on them, not allow them to get outside and beat them with the run or beat them with their legs. So I think they're going to have a big game, and they also play a role in stopping Dallas Goedert over the middle. So I think a lot of the Chiefs' defensive success is going to come from Nick Bolton and Willie Gay and just filling those run holes. What about you, Kyle? What you thinking on this one?
I'm thinking Chris Jones. He's got 15 sacks on the year, and he'll be tough to stop, but at the same time, Philly has a really good offensive line, so it'll be pretty hard on Chris Jones to apply pressure. But if he gets to the quarterback, that's going to be huge. That'll be huge for the for the Chiefs defensive side of the ball. So I believe, Nick, you have someone similar.
Oh, man, do I. Chris Jones is definitely, to me, the X factor on this defense. There are some solid edge rushers that Mr. Wright over there mentioned, but I think the biggest difference is Chris Jones, because really what's going to come down to, are they going to shut down that offense? And the way that they're going to be able to shut down that offense is being able to get at Mr. Hurts, getting him out of the way, getting him flustered. And I don't know if anybody's seen Chris Jones, but that's a big boy. That's a big man. And he has done it in the past. He's done it at the Super Bowl. I think he is the man to really make that big difference play when, well, Chiefs need it the most. So I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Kyle.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah, that is working very nice. So with that, I'm kind of wondering what's going on over there, Mr. Derek. What's your thoughts on this area?
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Chris Jones is the guy on defense. I mean, he's obviously the guy everyone looks to. You know, he's double teamed almost all the time. And we'll see how Philly's offensive line can keep up with that. But where I'm looking to is in the Chiefs' very, very young secondary. So obviously, like what I've said before, I'm a firm believer that the Eagles are going to be passing a lot. I think their run game is going to get shut down, which is what they're really comfortable with in terms of running. So I think the Chiefs are going to make that a point to shut that down, try to get Philly to pass more. So I'm looking to a guy in L'Jarius Sneed, who has just recently cleared concussion protocol. He's a young guy. He's got a big weight on his shoulders. He's got 2 stud receivers that he's going to have to pick from. I don't know if I'd want to go up against either guy, but he's going to have his hands full all game. He could get torched for sure, but as long as he makes that one big play, the Chiefs offense definitely has his back. So I think as long as he makes that one big clutch play, whether it be a pick, batted pass, anything, I think that could come up huge in what I think is going to be a pretty high-scoring Super Bowl. So that's kind of my opinion on that. What do you got over there, Magic Mikey?
Magic Mike is only a weekend job. My full-time job is a money lines with Mike. But no, all joking aside, I'll be short and sweet here. I got Nick Bolton. He's just a stud. He's one of 4 captains on the Chiefs. For the season of 22, he tied for second in tackles with 125 solo tackles, 49 assists, which is also good for second, and was 4th in interceptions overall. The stats don't lie. We talked about results earlier, and results are what you're judged on. And he has quite the proven stat lines and record book this season so far. Nick Bolton, it's up to him to kind of lead the defense, shut it down. But yeah, that's what I got, and that is going to complete our X Factor segment here for the Chiefs defense. Let's go ahead and go on to the Eagles side of the ball, and let's actually reverse it right on back to my good pal Derek here to start us off here on the Eagles side.
Whoa, I didn't know you were playing an Uno reverse card on me. All right, well, no problem. Well, on the Eagles side, I think the pass rush is going to be the big X factor on the Eagles. So I'm looking right at Hassan Reddick, the team's leading sack leader. He's going to have to really pressure Mahomes all game long, make him really uncomfortable. He's got a bad ankle, so if you can get him to make bad throws in the pocket, that's great. Or if you can get him to scramble, he's probably not going to be tough to chase down, given that he's kind of hobbling a little bit. So I think Reddick's going to have to live up to the hype that he's been all regular season, and he's going to have to make big plays.
We both have the same guy here, and I'm looking at Hassan Reddick myself, too. 16 sacks on the year, 2nd in the NFL. He will be tough to stop, I believe, if my notes are right. He's already at 3.5 sacks in postseason play, so he will... It's really, yeah. So their Chiefs are going to have their work cut out for them for sure. But their offensive line, the Chiefs' offensive line is not bad. But I do believe Hassan Reddick will apply the pressure, and it will make Mahomes' life difficult with that bad ankle. Mikey, what do you got for your X factor on the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles?
I have the D-line for the Eagles overall to create that pressure, obviously, on Mahomes. Obviously, he's not going to be able to scramble, so they should be able to eat. They should be able to do better than you would typically expect against Mahomes, especially with Brandon Graham leading the way as a captain on that defensive line at 6'2", 268 pounds. I wouldn't want to go against that. I know they got a good offensive line, obviously, but we'll see. Without Mahomes being able to scramble, how does that affect their offensive play? How does it expect that offensive line, right? Knowing that he's in the pocket, right? He's not going to be able to get out of the pocket as easy. So, I got the Eagles defensive line, and if I had to pick one person, I have Brandon Graham overall. That's what I got to say. Let's see what my ugliest of my two brothers, Nick here, has to say.
Well, if we're going to use the term ugly, I guess I don't know what your definition is, but I'll take it for now. No matter what. Jokes aside, I like to be right all the time. So my right prediction on the X Factor is Slay Jr. and that Eagles secondary in general. Man, I think the biggest difference between what is going to go down and why I think that the Eagles are going to win, we'll get into that later. It's going to be Slay Jr. It's going to be that Eagles defense. And that's why I predicted 2 interceptions on Patrick Mahomes' side earlier. So that's my opinion on the X Factor for the Eagles defense. What you thinking about there, Mr. Wright?
So I am thinking of taking on this Eagles defense a one CJ Gardner-Johnson. He has to take Kelsey out of this game. They're going to have to double team him. He's the focal point of that passing game, so they don't really have a choice. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson is one of the best slot corners that we do have in this game. Before he got injured in the year, he was leading the league in interceptions. And if I'm not mistaken, he finished second overall in the league still with being injured in the regular season. But Kelsey is this whole team where they rely on Kelsey. In the red zone especially, he's the best red zone target we've seen in a lot of years. So C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to have to man up, take away that third down, Kelsey just slipping out from a block, and they have to be able to recognize that and stop that. Otherwise, Mahomes is just going to be able to eat all day, regardless of what that pass rush is doing. He's always looking for Kelsey, especially when he gets under pressure. If they have to turn him into a pocket quarterback, the guy still has the arm talent of an all-time great, so he can be a very, very good pocket passer as well, but he's always looking at Kelsey first, and Gardner-Johnson's going to have a big game to take this game over for the Eagles defense and stop that Chiefs offense. All right, boys, now we have one of my favorite segments. I love the guy, but he is my sworn nemesis. We are kicking it over to our resident degenerate. We have money lines with Mikey.
It's time to talk money. Spreads, props, and locks of the week. Get in on the action. It's time for Money Lines with Mikey.
It is time to make some money with Mikey. It is Money Lines with Mike. And let's get right into it, guys. We are all here to spend a little pocket change and turn it into maybe a new TV. Who knows? I've already invested an hour and a half of my time to good old Diamond Joe's, and with gas prices, added maybe $40 there. And I may have stopped at the blackjack table and lost 60. But let's get into where I can make some big money, where I was there for. The whole reason that brought me an hour and a half south, because good old Minnesota, of course, does not have it legal yet and probably never will. Who knows? Let's get into the point, though. Drove an hour and a half south to make some bets, to do a little investigating, and to turn some pocket change into spending money. But yeah, overall for the game, we have a total predicted points of 50.5 points. To me, seems a little high. I personally would bet the under in that. with the defenses that are on the field there. But who knows? As far as total predictions, though, we do have the Eagles favorited by 1.5 points, which I agree with. We will discuss that after this segment here and why I agree with that. But I definitely think the Eagles are going to cover and then some, at least by 3 points here. As far as bets go, of course, we have discussed the MVP favorite, and are going to discuss that it's a quarterback's award. Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, probably going to win that, right? And you bet $5 on that, it ain't going to pay you much. It's only plus 130, right? Now, there obviously was going to be quite some other vast opinions on this. One of the predictions that I don't want to get into the reasons why, but who knows? Someone possibly might be predicting Kelsey. If you didn't already know, he's playing with his brother. First time a player's ever played with his brother in the Super Bowl. But anywho, Travis Kelsey, not Jason, of course. Travis Kelsey is at plus 1,600 as the MVP favorite. If you put $5 on that, that'll turn to 80. Put that in a little parlay action. Who knows? That might pay out quite well. Not too unpredictable, especially with the Kansas City Chiefs and their lack of the wide receiver depth right now and the injuries that they've suffered this year. But yeah, moving on. One of the most common bets in the Super Bowl, and one of the best, in my opinion, and arguably the best bet to make money in. Again, that's what we're here for, is money lines and Mike and making money, is going to be the first touchdown of the day. First touchdown of the day is pretty hard to predict. It's going to have the higher payoffs. It is an essential part of anybody's parlays. Let's just slow down and talk a little bit about Dallas Goedert, as I successfully pronounced, hopefully, at plus 1,200. 1,200 is pretty good. You bet $5 on him, pays you 60. Now, that's not the bet I'm saying. Crucial bet when it comes to the parlay. The first touchdown is one of the highest odds, one of the toughest to predict, and I just think he has it. They're predicting the run. They're predicting Hurts to get it outside. They're going to be double covering their wideouts. He's going to be open. He's going to be on one-on-one coverage. When he gets the ball, he's elusive. He's in all the tight ends out there. When he gets the ball, it kind of feels like a halfback in a way, which is kind of weird to say. But that's just how I feel. But let's get into Money Mike, right? The real why this segment has such a hype and such a little build up here is we're here to make money. And I got 3 $5 bets I just want to briefly discuss that I think you can make money on. They're not your typical bets. Of course, they're quite high odds. But this is the Super Bowl. Why would we not go for super bets here? So let's just dive in here. One of my favorite ones at plus 17,965. You heard me right. But this is, again, first podcast, Super Bowl, super bets. Here we go. I got Mr. Dallas, who we just discussed, as the first touchdown scorer. Obviously, if you're getting the first touchdown, it makes those odds, if you get in the second one, quite high, right? If you get in that first one in the first quarter, first couple minutes, you got a lot of ball left. Odds if you get a second, quite high. So I got a parlay with him the first touchdown going into him getting a second touchdown. Now, to juice it up on the other side of the ball, because obviously it's not going to be a one-sided affair. I think it's going to be quite high scoring in the first half. We got Juju Smith-Schuster anytime. Doesn't matter if he scores the last second or if he scores shortly after Dallas. That's what I got, $5. Pays you $903. That sounds a nice, 45-inch Samsung QLED TV if I've ever seen one. Hoping to be sponsored by Samsung one day. But let me bring it over to Tyler just for a second here. What do you feel about that, Tyler?
Out of all your wild bets here tonight, Mikey, I am actually kind of a fan of this one. As you guys all know, Dallas Goedert is indeed my X factor for the Eagles offense. So for him scoring first, that does not surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. I think that is a likely possibility, and him getting another touchdown throughout the rest of the game, I could very well see happening. Juju Smith-Schuster has not really done much for the Chiefs this offense this year. They were expecting a lot more out of him. What better time to break out and perform than the Super Bowl? Get him a touchdown. I do not hate it. Out of all the bets you have here, Mikey, I'd put my $5 on this one for you, buddy.
Sweet. I could definitely use the $5 for sure. But such the life of your local degenerate. Let's go on to my next bet here. I talked about the first touchdown being the most crucial part of the legs. And I have first touchdown here going on the other side of the ball. We have Jerick McKinnon, running back for Kansas City Chiefs. I just think it's going to be him. Mahomes can't scramble. It's going to be a tough game. I could see it getting all the way down to the goal line, especially with the Eagles' defense. But I could see it being tough and see McKinnon running in for the last 2 yards for the first. From there, we already talked about Dallas G, Mr. G, as I like to call him, for an anytime touchdown. He's going to score one. He's a weapon. He's there. He's ready. He's due. From there, we got a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, definitely pronounced that wrong, for an anytime touchdown. I apologize about my pronunciation. Twice college dropout here of your local UW Stout. But, hey, it's like misdemeanors. Everyone has to. But, yeah, I got him for an anytime touchdown. And then, of course, your local powerhouse, the most predictable. This literally almost doubled my bet. Adding Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce for an anytime touchdown. Pretty much almost doubled my bet. Turned a $5 bet to potentially pay $35.38. Well, some people win the Powerball. I personally don't think this is quite the Powerball. I think this is a slam dunk. But, again, twice college dropout here. Who knows? I might be wrong. Let me bring it over to my ugly brother, though, Nick, just to see what comments he has on this bet here.
Well, for a lottery ticket, I'll tell you what, I could spend $5 on this one and see some returns coming back because, $3,500 will make for a pretty darn good night in Philadelphia. So with the bet itself, Jerick McKinnon going in for the first touchdown, that's a very solid chance. I see him really being able to get some goal line touches. So that in itself I like. Obviously, with Dallas Goedert touchdown, I feel like that's kind of going without it saying. Very high chance. But I really do like this Clyde Edwards-Helaire play here. I mean, a lot of people are kind of looking past it. His odds are 1,600 for it. That's just a smart play for a possible lottery ticket. And slam dunk with Kelce. I mean, you couldn't go wrong here. So, great bet.
Again, I appreciate the support, and I will gladly take that $5 because we're down in the hole on the day. But we'll take it. Let's finish this up here. My last parlay, I'll be quick. I got Miles Sanders. Again, I think it's going to be a brutal defensive grind. And I think there's going to be a lot of goal line red zone touches. So Miles Sanders for 2 touchdowns. Miles Sanders for the first touchdown. And, of course, Travis Kelce, again, powerhouse is expected with his passing targets. He's going to get 1 at any time. And then, again, Mr. G, anytime touchdown. You put $5 on that, those 4 legs, pays you $7.86.50. Again, these bets are Super Bowl bets. They're super bets, not your typical bets. Now, I ain't trying to turn $5 on, Mr. Goedert getting the first touchdown and only making 60. I personally rather make something big out of it. And who knows? We'll see. But that is pretty much what I got for my parlays. The last thing I would just say is, lock of the week is Travis Kelce. Again, he's a monster. He's done it time and time again. He's an X factor. It's predictable, right? Now, just don't forget about him, right? I was shocked by when you add Travis Kelce in on how much value it adds to the parlay. It can take an $800 parlay and take it to $1,500. Why would you not add an anytime Travis Kelce touchdown as your lock of the week, especially if it's going to increase your pay that much? I think it's going to be quite the profitable day. We'll see. Now, that's why they call me the degenerate. More times than not, you're not going to win it. So please don't spend your rent money. Don't spend your utilities. But that is all I got with Money Lines with Mikey.
Well, Mikey, I sure hope you still have some money left over for bills this month because you got some wild ones there, bud. But in all seriousness, let's get to the actual importance of this podcast. Let's make some prediction, boys. First off, we're going to start with the MVP prediction. Historically, this has been a quarterback award. What do you guys think? Is a non-quarterback going to take it this year like last year with Cooper Kupp? Or is it going to be, again, going back to that all-important quarterback? Derek, why don't we start with you, sir?
I'm probably going to make the biggest, boldest take of the night and going to say that we are going to see the first tight end in NFL history to win the Super Bowl MVP. There's no better time for someone to win like Travis Kelce. Dude has been an animal all year long, and this is probably his best shot to get a tight end to win that MVP award. Yeah, normally that award is heavily favored to go to the QB, which is understandable. They're the leader of the offense, but as I've kind of really just have hit on all night long, the Eagles are going to be coming after Mahomes. Their secondary is just unbelievably good, so they're probably going to take out those deep threats. I think Mahomes is going to lean on Kelce a lot, especially in the red zone. That's always been just such a great connection. And of course, Chiefs, just a lot of injuries at wide receiver. Cole Hardman's back on injured reserve. Tony and Smith-Schuster are questionable, although I think they will probably play. But will they be limited? Who knows? But obviously Travis Kelce is Mahomes' go-to, and I think this is probably the best shot for a tight end to really win Super Bowl MVP. So I know that was a very bold take to start with. Mikey, do you think you can one-up that one?
Yeah, I've been pretty bold on most of this podcast. Let's bring it back down a little bit here and humble myself a little bit here. I'm not always too crazy. But no, I got Jalen Hurts as the MVP. I know he's the obvious choice, but I think Philly's going to bring something different. They're the most healthy. We've talked about their pass defense being the best this year and possibly in quite a long time in a generation. He's got the health on his side. Their team's healthy. They got a great offensive line. And to be honest, one of the big things I think too is since his injury, obviously they've been scheming different, right? Because it's about getting to the Super Bowl, right? So they're not going to send him on his scrambles that he typically does. And they're not going to send him on his designed running plays that he typically does. This is now the Super Bowl. This is everything. You put all the marbles in. You put all the chips in. If you're not all in 100%, it's over. Right, Jalen Hurts, we're going to see a different game out of him this week than we've seen the last couple. And with that in mind, I think, he's going to have some design run plays. He's going to have some game-changing moments. And with that, he's going to be bringing home whatever car they're giving out this year. I'm sure it's, a Ford Fiesta. No, I'm just kidding. Something nicer than that. But whatever car they're giving out this year is going to be Jalen Hurts. But let's see what the guy over here that smells like cheese thinks here. Just kidding. But what do you think here, Tyler, overall, as the MVP here?
As I mentioned when we kicked off this segment, it's a quarterback award to be won. I think this is going to be a good indication of who's going to win this game with our MVP predictions here, but I have it going to Mr. Patty Mahomes. The guy's just too good. He steps up in the biggest moments, unlike anybody we've seen in quite some time, outside of that one guy who probably just retired. Other than that, I agree with you, Derek, that Kelce's going to have a big game. I just don't know if he could have the level of production without Mahomes having the same level, if not more, to take that cake from him, especially with Mahomes just being the poster boy of the NFL right now. So he has that marketing aspect of him that goes behind it as well, as much as we think we can take that out of it. He's the most marketable player in the NFL right now, and I really don't think it's kind of close. So I think it's his to lose, as so long as the Chiefs do indeed win this game. If Travis Kelce won, I would be floored. I'm a huge Kelce believer, and I didn't know that a tight end has never won, so that's news to me. So if he were to take that, I would be ecstatic for him. I just don't think that would happen without Mahomes just going above and beyond. But, if Mahomes goes out and throws 2-3 interceptions, they still win the game, and Kelce goes for 140, 150 with 12 catches and 2 tuds, I could see Kelce winning this as well. How about you, Nick? What do you think, man?
Well, I'm gonna kick it back 7 years to a big name who's still around. Do you know who Von Miller is, Mr. Wright? He was the last defensive player to win it, and I'm predicting a defensive player to win it this year.
That's bold.
It's a little bold. Kind of going back to my very first prediction, I think Patrick Mahomes throws 2 interceptions, and I think both go to my boy Slade Jr. Both. So, I think the MVP goes to Slade Jr., If it doesn't go to Slade Jr., it goes to somebody in that Philadelphia defense, because I think that's going to be the ultimate determining factor of who wins this Super Bowl. We'll see what I think in my prediction, but until then, I'm wondering what Mr. Kyle has going on in that brain of his.
Yeah, I got Jalen Hurts. In my opinion, if the Eagles win, he throws for 2 touchdowns, no picks, and has 260 yards passing. I think that's enough for the MVP award. It's kind of unfortunate that I think, in my opinion, that it is a QB award, but I mean, it'd be super cool to see like Dallas Goedert get it or someone else, but I just think it's a quarterback award for sure. So I'm picking Jalen Hurts because if the Eagles win, I believe it just starts with Jalen Hurts.
All right, fellas, we're here. How is this game going to go? Let's hear the score and your prediction of the winner. Let's start with you, Nick. Who's taking Super Bowl 57?
Well, if you're asking me, there is going to be at least 3 to 4 cars on fire in the city of Philadelphia on February 12th. Why? Because the Eagles have won the Super Bowl. Score 28-24. Patrick Mahomes throws a last-second interception while going for a touchdown to try to beat him. And at that point, Jalen Hurts submits himself as a generational talent, Mr. Wright. So, let me just go ahead and set the scene up here real quick and transfer it to Mr. Wright, who is literally glaring at me like I can't wait. What do you got? What do you got over there, Mr. Man?
So I agree with the 4-point game. However, I think the light poles in KC are going to have to be greased up, brother. Patty Mahomes is taking it home back to the barbecue capital of the states. I have the Chiefs winning this one 31-27. I think Mahomes is just too good. Hurts needs to have a little bit more experience for me to just start believing in that Philadelphia team. That defense is freaking incredible. But it's Patty Mahomes and it's Andy Reid, and I just think that they're going to do it, man. Chiefs 31, Eagles 27. Gotta wait for next year, Philly. What you think, Kyle? Who do you got, brother?
I got the Eagles winning this one, 27-24. I think the Eagles have a better overall roster than the Chiefs, but again, I can't. Patrick Mahomes, he is that generational talent, but I do have the Eagles winning this one. I think Howie Roseman has built something special in Philly. He's done an incredible job drafting all these players, and even with the young quarterback like Hurts. But I got the Eagles winning this one. Mikey?
Yeah, Kyle, I think you're right. Pretty spot on here with the Eagles winning. I think it's going to be a little bit less of a scoring game with these pretty good defenses here. I have the Eagles winning as well, though. 24, Chiefs 21. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be won by a field goal. And that's just how Super Bowls go. They're always super close. They're always last minute. It's always that final second, that final drive. And I think the Eagles are going to come on top. They're the most healthy. They got a defense with the pass defense that just is going to eliminate Mahomes, especially with his ability not to scramble, right? They know what he's going to be doing and how to contain him. But yeah, I got the Eagles winning, and I agree with Nick. I do disagree highly with Nick on the 4-car estimate. We're probably talking 23 cars plus, probably a loss of life of 2 to 3 people, and probably damages in the thousands. That's what we should expect out of Philly. But let's finish it off here with our final prediction here. Last but not least, Mr. Derek Russo over here.
So I'm going to be the only guy that sides with Tyler here and thinks that the Chiefs are going to be Super Bowl 57 champs. Overall, on paper, I do think the Eagles are the better team on paper. Pretty elite defense, excellent offense. They've been dominant all year long. But, the Chiefs are used to the Super Bowl stage. They've been here a few times already. in recent years, so I think they've got that experience versus, the Eagles, a lot of young players who haven't been here, so I think maybe that inexperience could come into play. Tight game, totally agree with that. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think, Chiefs pull off a 2-minute drive, score, go up by 4, and then maybe Hurts tries to lead the team to a victory, but throws a last minute pick, kind of torches the game from there. But I'm going to throw in some superstitious facts here. So, in case if you guys haven't heard, white jerseys are the advantage in the Super Bowl. 15 of the last 18 Super Bowls, teams that have worn white have won the Super Bowl. And 36 of 56 all time. Hard to argue with that. It is a superstition. Definitely no sports and, nothing scientific about that. But, hey, the stats don't lie. Chiefs are wearing white. Gotta go with the superstition there. And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any Chiefs fans vandalize the Rocky statue. So they're holding off on that. So I think that the Chiefs will prevail in the Super Bowl.
Well, fellas, I had one heck of a time today, and I don't know if we could have kicked this podcast off with a better start. What better opportunity than we had to talk about this next upcoming Super Bowl? I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to next week. We can recap everything that happened within the Super Bowl and see how exactly we did today. Until next time, everybody, this has been Banter with the Boys.
Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. Tune in next time for more Banter with the Boys.